Orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all. 9 steps to become a squirting master. Squirting, aka female ejaculation, is possible for every woman. This liquid is a magical, rejuvenating elixir that nourishes both the squirter and the squirtee. Squirting has been written about for millennia. We find it referenced in texts and teachings all over the world. It's often described as the food of the gods, nectar, ambrosia, Amrita, the fountain of youth. Even though squirting tends to be a highly sought after check-the-box, porn-inspired act, it's a profound experience to have and share with an intimate partner. An anointing. To coax these emissions out of a woman requires trust, openness, and surrender. These qualities are then infused into her essence, which is why it is such a potent gift to receive for both. Here are 5 facts about squirting. Number 1, everyone can. Number 2, you can emit anywhere from a teaspoon to several cups per ejaculation. Number 3, with a kung fu vagina, your ejaculate can hit the ceiling and splash the wall on the other side of the room. Fact number 4, the fluid is expelled via G-spot area stimulation. Number 5, the liquid is made in the periurethral glands and Skene's ducts surrounding the vagina. How does squirting feel? Squirting is an intense emotional and physical release. It's often more of a full-body orgasmic experience for women, spreading from her yoni to all of her extremities. She might feel a range of emotions from joy, ecstasy, hysterical laughter, to sadness and grief. All of this is totally natural and welcome. Experiences and feelings are stored deep in the recesses of the vagina and the psycho-spiritual body of the woman. It all comes tumbling out through a cascade of a deep ejaculation, and she emerges reborn. Here are 9 tips to make you a squirting master and have your woman gushing all over the place. Intention. I want to do this for you. On your sex date night, take charge and really commit to making this happen for her.
Honey, it's squirting night.
You being solid in your intention and desire creates a container for her to open up and let go into. And for squirting, that is the name of the game: opening and release. Holding her emotionally and energetically will draw out her innermost surrender and fluids. A shit ton of towels. Because a woman can truly wet the bed, and in this case we want her to, preparing for a tsunami of wetness removes any fear or inhibition of soiling your beautiful silk sheets or, flooding the house. Have at least an armful and lay them down underneath your play space. Finger stamina. G-spot orgasms and squirting are brought on by a strong and relentless hand that just never gives up. So you train, get yourself some finger and hand strengtheners, and get on the program. One of our well-fucked all-star couples marveled at how the man was able to go for hours with his fingers. Then it occurred to him why that is. He's a professional piano player. He is working those things out all day long. And so should you. Go to the bathroom ahead of time. Many women will feel like they're going to pee when they get close to expelling their ejaculate. To remove the fear of urinating all over the place, make sure that you empty your bladder before sex, and then you will feel free to let loose. And then you can just ejaculate all over the place instead. Your overall warm-up. Plenty of foreplay brings her into an open state, which is where you want her to be. She ought to already be fully aroused with her pussy feeling very open, welcoming, and unguarded. Some full body massage will help to disarm her, and then you can move into some pussy shiatsu. This is a video of mine that guides you through some of my tantalizing strokes for yoni massage to warm her up and turn her on. Adore her. The more that you can make her feel cherished, loved, seen, and adored, all of these things reinforce to her that she can trust you enough to expose her innermost and vulnerable self to you. And you've got this. If she falls into absolute surrender, which is where you want her to be, you will catch her and be there. You can express this through holding, stroking her face, looking into her eyes, telling her how beautiful she is, all of these things that reinforce that if she falls, you will catch her. Keep hydrated. Before, during, and after, make sure that your water game is strong. The more liquid she takes in, the more she has to expel. The 2-finger tango. This technique is for bringing on G-spot orgasms and ejaculation. The 2-finger tango. Not 1, not 3, but 2. 2 fingers starting slowly and then making their way into a fuck frenzy. A gorgeously undulating C curve is what is going to take her over the edge. When all is said and done, drink up and imbibe the nectar of the gods. In some of the ancient cultural references I mentioned earlier, we see writing and actual paintings depicting men drinking their woman's ejaculate, even collecting it into a vessel. It is precious stuff and not to be wasted. If you have the ultimate love juice bestowed upon you, the best thing that you can do with it is savor it as the ultimate superfood that it is. In Taoist thought, our yin and yang essences are respectively infused into our bodily fluids, our saliva, our lubrication, and our ejaculate. By exchanging them, we nourish and balance each other. Bottoms up, kids. The calm after the storm. After a woman has the kind of profound orgasmic experience that squirting is, she'll feel unfuckwithable. She will be in her flow, tuned into the rhythm of life. Nothing can faze her. As her partner, you will have earned her trust and she will support you in your mission, in your life. She will be your biggest champion because you have helped to create a well-fucked woman. You have unlocked the secrets and power of her pussy. Since squirting is such a fabled, elusive experience for most, I wanted to share the journey of one of our well-fucked all-stars, Freya. She went from not even desiring sex in general to being a prolific, gushing, powerful squirter. You can hear all about how she got there, how it feels, the medicine of squirting, and the travesty of the laundry piles she now suffers from with constantly soiled sheets. Well-fucked all-stars. Welcome, Freya. It's awesome to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All right, so let's hear about your evolution with your squirting experiences.
Yeah, so I think I should probably just give a little bit of background, which is, before I found your work, my experience with sex was like very, at best, neutral, but at worst, like painful, numb, even like panic attacks kind of situations. And really, I had just reconciled with, I don't need to have sex. Like I was in a long-term relationship at that point in time and was just like, whatever, I guess sex is just not that important. It's just not a big part of a relationship. I had really convinced myself of that. And then I found you, and and I just knew right away that what you were saying was true, and it just opened an entirely new world to me, because all of a sudden, like I had a vision of what could be possible. And before, I knew what I'd grown up with around sex was bullshit. You know, all I had was porn and rape culture essentially, and but I had no other way. Like I didn't know there was anything else that was possible. And so having you articulate is so, like, I really needed your boldness to just like hit me over the head, because I really was in a place of like very much villainizing sex. And so I basically signed up right away and took Well Fucked Woman. And it was during that first 8 weeks when I first experienced squirting. And I remember the first times that it happened, I basically thought I peed myself, you know, and I had to sort of like, I think, which is pretty normal, and I know other women have done this too. I had to like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, I'm gonna go pee, and then I'm gonna come back and try doing this again, and like then I'll know for sure that I'm not peeing myself.
Right. Yeah.
And I definitely wasn't peeing myself. And yeah, it was just really sweet in the beginning, and fun, like to kind of right away like have this this opening after beginning to explore your work. And yeah, I ended up leaving that 6-year relationship that I was in. I knew now that there was more, and I was like not going to settle for anything less. And I did realize back then, but I see even more now, like it had nothing to do with him. Like I could have been with the best lover in the whole world at that point in time, and I still would have been numb. I still would have been experiencing pain. Like I still would have been totally disconnected, because I wasn't in my power, I wasn't in my body, and I certainly had no connection to my vagina. And yeah, so I, you know, after Well Fucked Women, I just kept doing the practices like every day pretty diligently, and I kept squirting like pretty much every time. Like what I thought was a lot at the time, I realize now those were like my baby squirting days in comparison. Yeah, and then I had my first experience of calling in like just the most wonderful lover who was exactly like what I needed at that point in time. And I know we're gonna talk about this in another episode of my current partnership, but this happened, you know, in the context of I was living in a town of like 2,000 people, like super rural. It was peak COVID time, and he was like coming through town. Like it was just, you know, exactly what you talk about. Like when you're in your power, when you're doing the work, you call in these beautiful
your vagina
partners.
called in.
Yeah, totally. And I was like, it's funny about, I always joke with my friends, like every time that I have a new experience sexually or in a partnership, I'm like, oh, Kim was right. Like I just feel like, you know, all the time it's like, you know, I'm learning these things from you and trusting it, and then I experience it, I'm like, oh, of course, like, she was right again. That's how it works. And yeah, I remember the first night we made love, I was so proud, I still am, I guess, of my ability to squirt, and like thought it was the coolest thing ever. So after we had finished making love, I showed him that I could do it, like a little party trick or something. I don't know. It was very sweet. But it wasn't happening when I was like in intimate with partners. And then fast forward to the next summer, and I was like 6 months into a different relationship, and having, you know, really beautiful sex and experiencing a lot of healing, but I wasn't ejaculating like with my partner.
Even if they would stimulate you, you weren't?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I think like 1 or 2 times I had a little bit, and it just, I guess like I was not open to it yet, which is really interesting. I didn't really understand why, but I didn't think a lot about it. But then like one day, and actually it was after, I had interviewed you on my Instagram page. So I must have had the Kim and Ami sex good juju. And because what happened was then, like, we, just like we're doing a normal thing, and I just like erupted. It was it was wild. Like nothing had changed. He had not learned any like fancy technique. He literally put like one finger in me, and all of a sudden I just like became a flood, like, and it just didn't stop. And it was more than had ever happened by myself. And and then we started making love, and it was like, again, it just like it wasn't stopping. And like the force of it was so much that I had to like keep throwing him off of me, and we were
so just, that you wouldn't drown. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it was just like the sheer force of like it coming out of my vagina was like, I couldn't, if he was inside of me, like it would become painful almost.
Yeah.
And I actually had these like, and for the next 24 hours after that first time, like these really crazy cramps, actually, like as my body was like figuring out this new thing that was happening. And then it shifted again, because like a week later, and that was still then from that day on, this is just what is now. Like I cannot have sex or of any kind without this happening. And but about a week later we were making love, and this time like something just shifted, and I just it was like this like melting sensation, and then I could actually ejaculate with him inside of me, which is like the sweetest experience, like a lot more gentle and cohesive, rather than like continually having to like throw him off of me.
Interesting. So you noticed like more of a melt in you and together, and then you were able to experience that more connected.
Yeah. So instead of it, like I just think I learned how to hold it a little bit more. So instead of having to like just be so overwhelmed by it, and I could just like soften around him instead, and it could still happen without him having to be outside of me, which was really sweet. So that was kind of like, that was when things really started to shift. And then we actually broke up, and it was kind of a big fear of mine before I was into it with somebody else. I was like, oh my God, maybe I'm never going to experience this again, like maybe this was only with him. And then a little bit later, I was intimate with another man, and I totally like the exact same thing happened, which is quite hilarious to have happen, like when you don't warn a man first. Like it's a really good test of his character, how he shows up in that moment. Like, can he hold you in that full expression? Because it's intense, and that was really great, because I realized, like my pleasure is mine, and these new openings and these new layers, like they belong to me. And yes, he had facilitated so much, and we had such a beautiful relationship, but like I get to take these new skills with me like into the next relationship. And that was a really big lesson for me around personal responsibility, like no more blaming my partner for not necessarily knowing enough or having the right technique, which, obviously like all of that plays a role, and you teach all of that so beautifully. But at the beginning, when I was having those thoughts about my partner not necessarily, being good enough, it was a total cop-out, because, and this is what I find so, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on this, but like, the time that I just opened up and started squirting like so intensely, there was nothing different, except for somewhere in me, I just felt okay to open and safe to open, I guess, because there was no different technique at all,
Yeah, well, that's what I would say. That is the cornerstone, is that people can have all the technique in the world. And there is all the technique in the world out there, right? People can look up videos and articles and all kinds of information out there. And if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it, because all the technique is there, except for that major piece of the internal surrender and letting go and letting those floodgates open. And I love how you described it. So when you had this shift in you, that's when everything on the outside shifted and your experience of it shifted. But that's yeah, everything connected to all the vaginal orgasms is around the level of opening and surrender and trust and release. And as you said, like part of that, well, a good chunk of that is just simply your relationship with you. And so if that part, you know that if you fall, you will catch you. And then if you fall, will your partner catch you? Like you said, that test of character, how will they react? That both of those are important, but, and ought to be there in equal amounts. But yeah, the name of the game.
And I think it was a real process for me actually to, and I feel like sometimes I'm still even in this place of really being able to accept like, you know, at first it's like, oh, this is a fun like thing I can do, but then it's like, for at least in my case, like it's a lot. And there's definitely, I think it really confronts the stuff that we have as women around being too much, you know, like it's too much mess, too much expression. Like, can't I just tone this down a little bit? But I can't, you know, and I think I had maybe a little bit of an image of like being this perfectly contained sex goddess who like makes cute noises and squirts like just an appropriate amount. And I had to like let that go. And it is confronting to like meet that wild, like primal, messy part of yourself. And if you like, at least for me, like there's nothing I can do if I try to like hold it back, then I'm not in the moment. I'm not experiencing like all the pleasure that's there for me. And I had to really untangle a lot, I think, to be comfortable and to not like apologize for like how big and expressive I am, not, you know, just at which squirting is kind of like one expression of that. And and realizing too that I think for men there isn't anything more sexy than being able to hold a woman in that like completely undone place, but it's so different from everything that we've been fed around sexuality growing up. Yeah,
like I love everything you said around that, the messiness and the too muchness. And that's absolutely, I think, a core theme for women is the too muchness, their bigness, and where we've had this, like on a positive archetypal level, this yin and yang of a man being in his strength and dominance and the woman being in this sort of more yin, receptive, open, surrendered place. And it might look like it's more contained, but I think we also acknowledge in the archetypal feminine the wild, the primal, the tempestuous, right? The storm that can slay. And I think that there is a process of owning that and being okay with it. And especially when the dominant messaging in the culture and even from partners can be tone it down. That's too much, you know? And I think even from a place of possessiveness, like say from a male partner thinking, oh, if my woman looks too sexy and then too many people want her, and can I handle that? Or, you know, if that, not even looking that sexy, but feeling it, right? Radiating that level of voraciousness that she naturally embodies when she is in that space, and people pick up on it, right? They can't help but pick up on it. So I love that is something that you've been reconciling and coming to a place of victory with, like, I can be all this and more, motherfuckers.
I think that is the medicine of squirting for sure. And just like I have joked too that I think that well fucked women should come with like a laundry disclaimer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had
like, it's so real.
I had stories of couples where the women have been prolific squirters and they end up having arguments about laundry because there ends up being so much laundry to do that it's like, well, we, you know, if they're camping, right, and they've got their tent set up and they're like, well, are we gonna
I live in my van too, so it's a whole other layer of logistics.
Exactly. How do you cope with the laundry, or do you have special tools? Like, it's definitely a topic of discussion for a couple.
Totally. But it's so worth it. And the feeling, I don't know, I try and think about like how to explain the feeling for women who haven't experienced it. It's just like so cleansing It's so delightfully cleansing. And sometimes I call it, it feels like crying out of your vagina. Sometimes like
Yes.
it often, has quite like an emotional release with it. And it feels like any stuck energy just gets completely moved out. And I think there was times too where I worried like, am I losing all of my life force or something, because when men ejaculate, it's
Right.
can be very draining. But actually, like think like, I mean, I'm curious what you think, but for me, it's actually, I find that it's very energizing often. Um,
Look, I would
but
say that if
I do sometimes wonder, I'm like, oh my God, this is so intense. It's so much fluid coming out of me.
well,
Mhm.
the proof is in the pudding. It's how you feel afterward. That's your gauge, right? If
Yeah.
you're feeling cleansed and uplifted and energized, then that's what's happened. And then, for
Yeah.
men, when they pass out and go to sleep after having an orgasm, we know that they have depleted themselves because it's obvious that they have.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I
So,
was I was joking though last week, and I think I'm gonna share this story in the future, but with my new partner, just having a lot of sex and having a very very fun time. I was joking with a friend. I'm like, I think I actually might have to go to the hospital and ask for a saline drip because I just like cannot keep up. I cannot like stay hydrated enough. I don't know where this is coming from because I swear I am not drinking enough to like match this level of squirting.
right.
But so far I'm still alive. It's all good.
Well, maybe there's a metaphysical equivalent. Like it's not about water for water, right? It's
Yes.
like an
Yep.
energetic, like you said, maybe even this transmutation of toxins
Mhm.
and stuff that needs to be let go of that gets transformed into and
Yeah.
infused into this fluid. And that's what you're releasing rather than the amount of water you bring in is the amount of squirting that comes out. I think it's
Yeah.
relevant. I think we ought to stay hydrated
Yep.
when we're going for marathon squirting sessions, but it may not be a direct, milliliter per milliliter relationship.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's the conclusion I've had to draw because it's like the only possibility that there's some kind of like alchemical process going on where it's drawing from the ethers of the universe or something because
Yeah.
it's not matching my water intake, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what would you say then, in overall, in your daily life, that you feel are effects from being a
Mm-hmm.
like having this tool, and what does
Mm-hmm.
that do for? I mean, you've touched on it, but if you were to summarize it, like
Mm-hmm.
what that's done for you and who you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, such a big conversation, like all of the change that I've had in my life since taking Well Fucked Women. That was almost 2 years ago. And like my work in the world now is as a writer and a poet and a artist, I guess, and that I completely see as directly correlated to what has unfolded for me after learning everything I did with you, and just like this level of expression that I have in my intimate relationships is completely matched in the external world, and women all the time ask me like, how do you speak so freely? Like, how do you say all the things that the rest of us are thinking but like are too afraid to say? And um I always answer like, I found my truth in my vagina. Like I didn't I think for a long time I had kind of focused on trying to like speak my truth and like kind of do that process almost like forcefully and focusing on my voice and my throat, and it was kind of turning away from that and putting all of this energy towards my healing my sexuality and coming back into my body. And then I sort of just came back to this, to speaking and expression, and was like, oh my God, like all of a sudden all the blocks that were there are not there anymore. And just the more like presence in my sexuality and in my pleasure, and I I can just like all this creativity flows through me. And I think that that's just so directly related. And then also in terms of relationships, I've just like I've had like two really beautiful relationships since taking Well Fucked Woman, and now I'm in this new like absolute dream beautiful partnership, which I totally feel like I manifested through through all of this work and my connection to my body. So yeah, squirting is like that physical expression through my body, I feel like has been matched in all these other layers of expression in my life.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
And like it's the process, right, of like of confronting, like I was speaking to you earlier, all those parts of me who like wants to stay small and wants to just stay like tamed and contained, and having to work through all of that to have these sexual experiences meant that like I had also worked through all this other stuff in my external life as well, and just found it so much easier to work through any of the fears that I had elsewhere, because I had this sort of like template or map already like patterned into me, if that makes sense.
Of the having to navigate through that and bust through your own blockages and keep going, like in the microcosm of your bed, and so that journey
and like and trust in myself, I think, too, right? Like
right. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What would you say are your top 3 tips for other women or couples trying to get over the squirting line?
I guess just time. Like when it first happened, there was no expectation at all that it was going to happen. I assumed it would take, way more time for this kind of thing to happen. And so I think time would be the first. And I think like it helps for me now in partnerships to talk about like the logistical aspects of it too, so that I feel comfortable and I don't feel like I'm going to like completely soak the bed that we need to sleep in tonight, Yeah. So I think there's like that aspect of talking it through with a partner. And I think for women, it's like choosing men who can hold you in that place, like in the vulnerability, and who aren't going to say that you're too much, and who can hold that and like be in their power and themselves be like really nourished and like spiritually fed by your level of openness in that. And I feel, and that's another thing too that I think from taking Well Fucked Women, like the men that I called in were just really beautiful and really skilled at holding the space and like learning together, even though I don't think any of the men that I had been with had actually been with other women who had squirted, and certainly not to the extent that I did, but they really like, kind of rose to the occasion perfectly. Yeah, I think those are the things that I would, and just, like being really, really honest with yourself and with your partner, and like you say, like always clearing the glass in your relationship, for sure.
Right. And I know you touched on this a little bit, but how do you feel during squirting? Like, how do you feel in your body, emotionally? What's going on for you?
It's actually it really changes. It's not always the same, but it's very blissful. It's very just like so sweet and tender, and this like very, very warm release. And then other times too, it does feel like a literal explosion, like that for sure. It's not always the same, like how it happens. And I'm not exactly sure like the physiologic process, but I squirt from like different places in my vagina as well. And I feel like depending on where it's from, there's like a different sensation, but it really is just this like beautiful cleansing, and afterwards just feeling so like clear throughout my whole body, and just like this like big release of of weight or any kind of heaviness. There's really a sense of lightness and just like joy and bliss, and it's always pretty hilarious. There's a lot of laughing I find around squirting, just because, especially when there's a lot, you end up in some like very hilarious situations. Maybe I can share quickly because it's related to this and the next conversation that we'll have. But so this new man that I'm with currently, a week before we met, I had written a poem that was really like, he ended up being, you know, word for word this dream man that I had written in my poem. And the first line of it is, "You'll catch my third eye, I'll ovulate so hard I have to change my pants." And we were you know, on a beach in Vancouver, and there was like nobody there, and so we were, you know, like fooling around, and he was fingering me, and I'm like still have my pants on, and I just like completely like wet my pants all of a sudden, just like ejaculated all through my pants, had to take off my pants and like dry them out in the sun. I was like, well, there goes, that line has now become true. Like, be careful what you write down in poems, Freya, because they always come true.
Oh, I love that. That's gorgeous.
It was pretty, actually, it got even more humorous because then like I had my pants on, we just kept going. And he, at one point, you know, I'm like kind of like, my eyes are closed, just like blissed out, and he just starts like hysterically laughing because he's like kind of, you know, lying down beside me, and I just like look up, and I like projectiles squirted like all over, like down his pants, over his shoes, which were like not close to where we were. Anyways, it's all very, very humorous and sweet and funny. Yeah.
I love it. And all of that as well, it also, as you've said, speaks to the acceptance and the ability to flow, because it's all about flow. It's going with the flow, right? We are releasing the flow. And that's what I think one of the biggest symbolic acts of squirting is helping to whatever is in the way that is impeding our flow emotionally, sexually, physically in life. And we're removing that. And once we get that flow going, it shows up and expels itself into all areas of our lives. And then the way that people, that this experience that for many is so novel and unusual, and that people might have these phobias about body fluids, and they might even, you know, a lot of guys have thought they were peed on, right? The first time a woman really squirted all over them, they thought they were peed on. And it's like, how do they handle that? Right? Do you just accept it and go with the flow, or are you freaked out? And then right there, you're revealing yourself, you know, to the woman. She's got that information now that she can run with.
Yeah, and you just have to like reach a point of being okay with whatever is gonna come out of your body. you know, like
totally.
Because you don't always know, like you can't tell what's happening. And I know, like for me, like a fear that comes out, I'm like, I'm gonna poop. Like the amount of like just pressure and release and like letting go that I feel in my body when I ejaculate, like that's a fear. And I'm just like, I have to just whatever, like if I do, like I can't like let that fear block this beautiful sexual experience. And if it happens, like, you know, we'll just
shit happens.
Like it doesn't have to be a problem. And I think that's and that is, the squirting is like so primal and so just raw and real that you do have to really confront all of that stuff, I think.
Love it. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Just I think what I want to say at the end here is just to kind of come back to where I was at the beginning, and just like to any woman who's like, because I remember when I first listened to your podcast, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like maybe some of this is true, and maybe I'll get like somewhere along this path, you know. But I really was at a place like my vagina was completely numb. I found sex pretty painful. I would often like have kind of these dissociative like panic attacks. It was really bad, like what I was experiencing, and I genuinely just didn't want to have sex anymore. And here I am now, you know, like I'll have sex all day if I can, you know, like just a completely different relationship, and how much opened up in my life when I really said yes to taking your course and healing this part of my life. So if anyone's listening and is like, okay, but like that's not me, like there's no excuses because I was there. I was like the biggest closed off prude, and now I'm totally not. So anything is possible, as you say. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Freya, for sharing all of this. So inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
For more woman and vagina unlocking secrets, check out my Coming Together for Couples Salon. This is my 10-week signature online program for couples where we cover everything from squirting techniques in my entire Orgasmopedia how-to guide, male stamina and marathon sex where you can learn to last for hours, communication skills, Taoist and tantric sexual superstar techniques, and much, much more. You can sign up for the salon below, as well as check out the free video preview series and be on the list to be notified when registration opens. If you would like more tips for bodacious life, love, and sex, subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe and also leave a review. And send someone else the gift of a healthy libido and an off-the-charts love life by sharing this episode with them. We'll be back next week, and in the meantime, many happy orgasms.